Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Amazon, proud sponsor of WPLN's daily show, This Is Nashville, engaging our differences so we can discover our unity. More on Amazon's community work at aboutamazon.com.
I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. Now, there's some laws surrounding elections in the U.S. that are set at the federal level, like the dates of the presidential election every 4 years and the midterm election every 2. By law, these elections have to occur on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November in even-numbered years. But there are plenty of other rules and regulations that are set by each state and county. Some states have made Election Day a public holiday, while others, like Tennessee, allow for time off from work with pay to vote. Then there are rules that govern voter registration guidelines and deadlines, absentee ballots, even which ID you need to bring with you to show up to a poll show to a poll worker, before you vote. Now, today we're going to look at several of the most frequently asked questions about voting in Tennessee. Joining us are Dorinda Smith, board member with the League of Women Voters Williamson County. Also with us is former guest Pratik Dash, political director at the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, or TIRC. Dorinda, thanks for being here. And Pratik, good to see you again.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks.
Really happy to have you here. And listeners, it's your turn to talk. If you want to join the conversation, give us a call to ask a question about voting this November, or tell us what motivates you to vote. What are some of the ways the state or federal government could improve the system so that more people are eligible to vote? And who can vote? Why do you vote? Do you vote for a better future? Do you want to hold politicians accountable? Or do you feel a shared sense of civic responsibility? To any of those questions, or to whatever you're thinking, please give us a call at 615-760-2000. All right. Now, this past Tuesday was National Voter Registration Day. It's described as, quote, a nonpartisan civic holiday dedicated to celebrating our democracy, end quote. Hopefully you all went out there and celebrated yourselves. So I do want to ask this. Dorinda, what is the best and easiest way for people to register to vote?
The easiest way is to vote online, obviously. And you can do that through a website that Tennessee sponsors called SOS, like, Morse code for help, .tn.gov. That's sos.tn.gov. You can register to vote on that website. You can get all sorts of information on that website. It can even put in your information, your address, and it will tell you where your voting place is on Election Day and give you all sorts of information you need specific to you.
Okay, now I have another question. We have a lot of people who are moving to the area. Nashville is the it city, continuing to happen. When are they allowed to register to vote? Because when you look it up, the rules seem kind of wibbly-wobbly, so to speak.
Yeah, I love that phrase. Thank you. It is a little wibbly-wobbly. I think it is primarily when you can show documentation that you live here. So before you can even get a driver's license, you're going to have to provide a copy of a utility bill or a bank statement that shows your address and that you reside in the state. And you can bring that as well with the voter to register to vote because, you've got to have a voter ID in order to vote, and you've got to have that documentation to show you're a resident. So
do I need to update my registration if I've moved?
Yes, you do, because you may move out of a precinct if you're staying in the county. You might, if you're in a different county, those are all new rules with that county, may be different, certainly on where you vote and the times that you vote.
What if I change my name?
You'll have to bring whatever documentation you need. If you got married and you took your husband's name, you're going to need to bring your marriage certificate to document that as well.
All right. If you're tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. It's your turn to talk this hour about our voter support ecosystem. My guests are Dorinda Smith and Pratik Dash. We want to hear from you. It's your turn to talk. Call us at 615-760-2000. We're going to go to Jackie. We're going to go to Jackie in East Nashville. Jackie, thank you for calling. Welcome to the show. What is your question or comment?
Hey, thank you. So excited to be a part of it. My question is, I am new to the state of Tennessee. I was excited to get my license so that I could register to vote. I got my license August 26th, and registered to vote when I got my license, but I am still not showing up in the system, and it's been probably, I guess, over 3 weeks now.
Yeah, I would not. I would call and ask what you need to do to get that showing up as registration. Are you going online? Is that how you know you're not showing up as registered?
Actually, I have called, and then I'm going online too. And when I call, they just say that I'm still not registered, or it's still not showing up. And they said they did say to give a call back, which I have followed up with, and still not there.
Well, don't panic yet. You've got till October 7th to get registered for this election. But I certainly would be anxious when you get toward the end of the month to make sure that you've got that nailed down.
I was also going to say, hey, Jackie, this is Pratik. I was also going to say another option is that you could just go to Davidson County Election Commission, and they'll give you a paper form to fill out right there. And that way it can be taken care of. There's an office on Murfreesboro Road. There's also an office downtown. There's a few other offices in the county. But if it's easier, you might want to just drive, park, and get them to help you fill out a paper form. And that way you just talk to someone right there to make sure that you are in the system for sure. And so you can just Google that and look it up if you've got the time between 9 to 5 on a weekday, which I understand not everyone has that availability, but it's an option.
All right.
Yeah, I that was kind of my question, is should I just re-register again?
Yeah, I would say that there's no harm in registering multiple times, and I think for everyone that's listening, it's a great question. And again, if you register multiple times, even if you're at the same address, it doesn't hurt anything. And so, I would recommend giving it a try again, and even going to the election commission and registering there.
Okay, great. Yeah, get out and vote, right?
That's right. That's right. We got to get out and vote. Jackie, before you go.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Do you know anyone else who's new to the state and is having trouble registering to vote?
Just my husband.
Great. I mean, I say bring him with you for sure if possible. And I know we touched on the online form, but I also want to name that there is a paper form that folks can fill out too, and you can always get that from the Election Commission. And there's a bunch of grassroots organizations that some you'll be hearing from later on this segment who also do voter registration and drives like that too with paper and online forms. So.
Like the public library will have copies of the form.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I did fill out the paperwork at the driver's license place. Also, it asks you if you want to work as a poll worker on the day of voting, which I also said. So I guess it's just kind of staying on top of it and probably registering again.
Well, thank you for being a poll worker, and thank you for doing that. And also let them know they're gonna lose a poll worker if they don't get you in that system. Right. So
that's right.
Right.
Jackie.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys.
One more question for you, Jackie. Where did you move from, and did you have this much difficulty registering to vote there?
I moved from New York, and I did not. So it was pretty painless and quick.
Okay.
But I was there for almost 20 years. So, it's once you're in the system, then it doesn't take,
Yeah.
I think, in fact, I when I got my license, it automatically, you register to vote there, too.
Okay.
At the driver's license.
Awesome. Jackie, thank you so much for calling. Really appreciate it. All right. Jackie was awesome. Okay, question for you both. Have you run into this before? With the people that you work with, people having difficulty in registering after they've gone through all the proper steps?
I have not run into that.
I have. I work with quite a few different immigrant and refugee community members. I think that we have had at times, even when they register online, sometimes it doesn't fall in the system. And again, I think it's important to remember that online voter registration for Tennessee, it's not like it's an old thing. It just only came a few years ago. And so I remember, the first few years, there was quite a few issues as people registered. One of my favorite stories to tell is that I remember there were two twins that we had registered to vote months before the voter registration deadline. Sorry about that. And we were so excited to have them go vote. And I remember, once we registered them to vote, a few weeks later, one of the brothers called me and said, "Hey, I need to come to your office and re-register to vote." And I said, No, you're good. If you haven't moved, you're good to go and you don't need to re-register. And he said, "No, we need to talk." And so swung by the office and he said, "Look, here's the issue is that I'm a twin. I'm an identical twin. And my brother and I have the same first and last name and middle initial, and we live at the same address. And every time I register to vote, it overrides my brother's voter registration."
Wow.
And they were only separated by their social security number was the only difference on the form. It was just by one digit. And they kept filling out some paper forms. And I think the worker at the time just thought that, they just thought they made a mistake or that they were already in the system and just kept overriding. And so we were able to take them to the election commission, similar to Jackie's story, where we went to the election commission and showed that there were two people there and that while they looked the same, they were two different voter records. And we were really excited to give them the ability to vote together. So that was really awesome.
So they had the same exact name except for the middle name.
The middle name was different, and that's, what they went by in their home and in their family. And, a lot of immigrant cultures and have that. And so I think that sometimes the system isn't built for the diversity that is in Nashville, especially.
Okay, so any identical twins listening, be careful and be aware and make sure that you do get yourself registered. Okay, we're going to go to another call. We got Matt in Ashland City. Matt, welcome to the show. Thanks for calling. What's your question or comment, my friend?
Hey, folks, I just want to say I'm motivated to vote this year because there's actually socialist candidates on the ballot. Claudia De La Cruz and Karina Garcia will be on the ballot this year in Tennessee. We don't have to settle for the two major capitalist parties. There is a grassroots socialist alternative that we have this year.
Thank you for that comment, Matt. Now, you said that you're excited to vote this year because of these candidates that you just mentioned that you support. Is this unusual for you? Are you normally generally excited to vote, or is it something that you kind of pass on?
No, I'm generally not excited to vote because most years there's just the Republicans and the Democrats on the ballot. And neither of those parties, I believe, represent the working class. Most of us don't want the war in Ukraine and the war, really the genocide going on in Palestine right now. So it's great to have an alternative that actually represents the interests of the working class.
Do some members of your community out there in Ashland City feel the same way that you do?
Absolutely, yeah. We've been out door knocking and such about these issues, and some people out here signed the petition to actually get Claudia and Karina on the ballot.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Oh, one more question for you before I let you go. Are you registered, and did you have difficulty registering to vote?
I am registered, and no, I actually did not have difficulty registering.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for calling us, Matt. Really appreciate that. Okay, so you both are working with people to register them to vote, to inform them about the vote. You're not telling them who to vote for. That's up to them. It's up to all individual choices. Have you noticed an uptick in enthusiasm this election cycle?
It was interesting. We did have a voter registration activity at the library in Williamson County on Tuesday for the National Registration Day. And I was kind of shocked at how many people came to our table to talk about registering. They'd already registered, but they were excited about the election, or they were new and had not registered, and we were happy to be able to point them to how they could register online. But everybody was pretty excited when we told them if they were registered when that early voting started October 16th and what the locations were in Franklin. They were pretty pumped about it. So, yeah, I think this election's going to bring some numbers out. I'm hoping that we get the participation that we need.
Pratik?
Yeah, I was just going to add that, I think the presidential election years, we always see a little bit of an uptick. There's something about election on TV all the time. I think the thing that, Matt sort of touched on and other folks have touched on is that it's not always about the top of the ticket, especially in a state like Tennessee. One thing I want to make sure listeners understand is that, we want to make sure that everyone votes, not just, at the president level, but all the way down the ballot. There's folks that are state representatives. There are local elections. There's so many elections of people that affect your everyday life that are on the ballot in this election. We see a lot of ballot drop off. A lot of people just vote for president and then head back home. And so really want to encourage all the listeners to tell your friends and family to vote all the way down the ballot, because I think it's so important. Those local races affect your life just as much as the top of the ticket.
The lower you get down in the ballot, the higher it is a priority for you.
Absolutely. The closer it touches your life.
All right. We're going to go to one more call. We've got Mark in West Nashville. Mark, thank you for calling, my friend. What is your question or comment?
Hey, Khalil, thank you so much. I appreciate all you do with your show, and appreciate you having this show today. Wanted to make a quick comment. Wanted to say, please, everybody, get out, register to vote. Make sure your registration is correct. It is very imperative. So wanted to echo that. Question I have is this. What are some things that we can do as citizens to help sort of combat some false narratives or bad information regarding voter registration? And then also, what are some things being done to help limit voter intimidation? Because, there's unfortunately some unscrupulous people out here in the world, and they don't play fair. So just got some questions about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think I'm going to start with the intimidation question first. One thing that we've seen when we register people to vote who are especially first-time voters, again, working with immigrant community members, many of our community are becoming citizens and naturalizing and voting for the first time. And there's just a natural tendency, even without thinking about the political climate, there's a natural worry to be going out and voting for the first time. One thing that I would highly recommend is vote with someone and vote in groups. I think a lot of the fear goes away when you say, hey, do you want to vote together and then go grab lunch? Or do you want to, vote together and get some ice cream or something after? Kind of making voting an activity is always exciting and helps kind of really helps with fighting voter intimidation. And so the bigger the group, the more fun it is. Take a photo with your stickers and post it on the gram. Do whatever you need to do to blow it up and spread the word. But voting together has always been something that I see is exciting and kind of making a party of it. As for your question about fighting disinformation, I think that there's sometimes this conception of like we need to myth bust. And, research actually shows that myth busting isn't actually the way to go. You actually need to pre-bunk. You actually need to be putting out, you want to be one of the first to get information out about what is accurate and what's correct. And so even like sharing general information, things that you think are obvious, that you have to be over the age of 18, you have to be a citizen to vote, that those kind of little things, putting it out in a social media level or talking about it to people, you'd be surprised how many people just don't know or just need another reminder. And so always just like pre-bunking and fighting that is a form of fighting that disinformation.
Excellent. I want to thank you very much for that call, Mark. Okay, so talking about pre-bunking and getting some facts out there, let's go through some of the most frequently asked questions about voting and the deadlines. So the deadline to register to vote in Tennessee is October 7th, right, Dorinda?
It is. And you've got to have it into the Election Commission by October 7th.
Okay. Absentee ballots is a big thing. When is the deadline for that?
Absentee ballots can be picked up and ordered by the 29th of October. However, if you wait that late, you need to remember that ballot has to be into your Election Commission by November 5th, by close of business on November 5th. So if it were me and I were going to vote absentee, I wouldn't wait to the last minute to request that. Now, the rules around absentee are very squishy. If you're 60 or older, you can just ask for an absentee ballot and there are no questions asked. If you are not 60, then there's some rules and regulations about who can ask for an absentee ballot. If you're going to be out of town or out of your county, actually, for the period during early voting as well as Election Day, you can get an absentee ballot. If you are a student that is going to be out of the county of your resident, you can get an absentee ballot. But I'm going to give you a little note on that one, and this is important. If you have a student that is a first-time voter who has registered, but they will be voting for the president in the presidential election for the first time, and they registered online. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, or whatevers. The important thing is that they're going to have to vote in person. The bottom line is the Election Commission wants to see your identification the first time you vote. Now, here's a little trick. You can go in, like maybe during fall break, you go into the Election Commission when your student is in town. They go in and ask to update their registration. They will show their voter ID at that time, and then they can vote absentee.
Okay. That's important for a freshman.
It is important for a freshman.
Okay. Now, the deadline to request an absentee ballot, October 29th. Does that, you said it had to be into the election board, not postmarked.
Not postmarked.
It's got to be delivered.
It's got to be there. In Tennessee, it has to be delivered.
Okay.
And you can't drop it off. It has to either be delivered by mail, by UPS, FedEx, or some major carrier delivering to the Election Commission.
All right. Election Day, Tuesday, November 5th. We all know that. Early voting, when is that?
October 16th starts early voting. Whoop, whoop. That's the ticket, man. There is no point in getting in line on November 5th when you can go early. And in Williamson County, for example, you can go to a number of polling places. The hours for most of them are going to be from 8 to 6:30 during the week, and on Saturday from 9 to 2, except for the Election Commission when the hours are from 8 to 2 during early voting. Early voting starts on the 16th and goes to the 31st.
Halloween for the last day. So if you are waiting till the last day, I was going to say go in costume, go all the way in, and definitely have some fun with it. The only other thing that I was going to add about early voting is that there are different times and locations for different counties. So just making sure, Davidson is different than Williamson, and those hours are different as well. But the thing that makes early voting so great is, you can go to any early voting location within your county. So if you're close to one at work and you want to sneak in a vote, and you can do that and come back out. But early voting is the way to go. I love to vote on the first day of early voting because there is no line. I'm in and out, and I got my sticker.
There you go. Okay, two more quick questions before we go to break. Can someone hand deliver their absentee ballot?
No, it has to be mailed or FedExed or UPS.
All right. And how can they apply for absentee ballot one more time?
They can go online and request an absentee ballot.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. Pratik, stay right there. Dorinda, we'll see you later on in the hour. Now, when we come back, we'll explore the civic engagement work of voter support organizations. You can call us with your questions or comments at 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. We'll be right back.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nashville. As we heard before the break, there are a lot of rules and regulations in the administration of voting in Tennessee, and this tangle of laws, as well as other systemic inequities that can lead to inequality in access to voting for some Tennesseans. To help counteract this, several organizations in Middle Tennessee have created civic engagement programs that focus on access to voting and voting rights. Now, joining us now to discuss these programs are representatives of three of these organizations: Pratik Dash, political director with the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition; Joseph Gutierrez, executive director with Asian and Pacific Islanders of Middle Tennessee; and Kaylin Russell, advocacy manager with the Equity Alliance. Kaylin and Joseph, welcome to This Is Nashville.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Thank you both for being here. Really appreciate all three of you, actually, for being here. Okay, so I want to talk to you because, listen, listeners, it's your turn to talk. You can call us at 615-760-2000 and a couple prompts. If you'd like to join this conversation, give us a call to ask us a question, or you can simply let us know, is voting important in your family? What do you remember about the first time you voted? And if this is your first time voting, what are you looking forward to the most? Again, you can call us at 615-760-2000. Now, Pratik, in June, the Tennessee Secretary of State's office sent a letter to over 14,000 registered voters asking them for proof of citizenship. The letter warned voters that it's illegal in Tennessee for non-citizens to vote, and it provided instructions on how to update voter information. But it also stated that illegal voting is a felony and carries penalties of up to 2 years in prison. In July, WPLN News followed up on the story of this with the Secretary of State's office, and they said in a response to that letter, quote, nearly 3,200 had provided evidence of U.S. citizenship, and more than 300 had requested to be removed from voter rolls. Who were the primary recipients of this letter? Do you know?
We can't say for certain, but based on a lot of the calls that we received, many of them were new citizens, folks who had just come from, taking their oath ceremony, and mostly immigrant and refugee community members based on the calls that we received. And I think it's important to remember, this is about the country that we want to be and how we treat people and what it really means to be America. The way our government treats immigrants should reflect our core values of equality and fair treatment, and freedom from discrimination and opportunity. And, we all want to participate and contribute to our communities, and voting allows people to have a say in the issues that affect their families and their communities. And I think this letter, in a way, is a form of voter intimidation. I think it was really a way to try and stop some of our communities from heading to the polls. I think that the folks who sent this letter will deny that tooth and nail, but I would say that I would argue that it's a form of voter intimidation.
Real quick, what impact did this have on the community? You work with immigrant and refugee people in Tennessee and Middle Tennessee.
Totally. I mean, I think we had so many questions of people asking, what does this letter mean? Can I still vote? Am I off the rolls? And I think it's that when someone registers to vote, if they haven't moved and they have registered, and those voter registration forms ask for proof of citizenship already, and they've done it. I don't see why they have to reprove or show again that they are citizens. And so I think that for me, it just felt like an indirect attack on our community. I mean, honestly, a direct attack on our communities. And we had to play the role of really reminding folks that their voice does matter, that their rights should not be infringed, and that they should have a voice in these elections and to go out and vote. But there's a lot of questions and confusion that was unneeded and unnecessary.
Now, Joseph, a lot of work is being done to support voters, and it's due to the disparity in access to voting. Tell me this, how does that disparity present itself in Asian American and Pacific Islander community here in Middle Tennessee?
Yeah, I think one of the things to really note about Asian and Pacific Islander marginalization in America is really tied to being made invisible. So I think, voting is one of the ways we can very clearly address that, and making sure that we're showing up to the polls and making sure that our community's heard, right? So when we got started in 2020, one of the first things that we did was actually just do a lot of messaging around the census, because one of the few ways, our community could be counted, that we could get properly, resourced, and really thinking about, our needs met, and even thinking about, language access kind of needs, and sort of thinking about what that looks like. So for us, going to the polls is a really way for our community to make sure that we're heard.
Tell me about the specific engagement that AAPI of Middle Tennessee does.
Yeah, so for a lot of us is, helping people navigate the voter process, and really thinking about, getting registered. Lack of language, translated materials, make it really difficult for some of our community members to really get registered and know where to go and where to be, and even what's on the ballot. So that's one of the things that we kind of do, and we work with national partners to really think about that. Some of the other things we're kind of working on too is just, build a culture around voting. So we have a few events lined up to really think about, how do we engage young people? So we'll be having a concert around getting out the vote later this month or in early October. And then we'll be really thinking about, what does it mean to just have that messaging and think about, what does it mean to be, an Asian Pacific Islander that cares about their community and speaking up for, the members of our community that can't vote.
Now, Kaylin, tell me about the civic engagement work that the Equity Alliance engages in.
For sure. So the Equity Alliance is a year-round organizing organization. So we're always thinking of ways to connect with our communities and get them connected and involved in the policies and the electoral processes that affect them. So right now we're in the thick of it with it being election season. So we're doing some community engagement work that's just rolling out. We're doing a series of happy hours called the Shut Up and Vote Tour, where we have a different happy hour every weekend where people can shut up while they have a drink and then get registered and committed to vote. We found that to be successful. Every Monday, we're having election empowerment hubs where you can write postcards to make phone calls to help people get ready and get reminded to get out and vote. We're also doing our Faithful Voter Project. So on Sundays, we're at churches all across the city, getting congregations registered and empowered and ready to vote.
So it sounds like what your organization, Equity Alliance, and AAPI of Middle Tennessee, you both are bringing joy and happiness to voting. Sometimes people can walk around in an election cycle, feel doom and gloom, right?
Yes.
But you guys are making it a fun thing. Like, hey, engage in this. This is the fundamental part of being a citizen in the United States. Tell me this, Kaylin, why does the Equity Alliance do this type of work?
We do this because a lot of the communities that we serve, Black people, working class people, have often felt and are purposefully excluded from the election process. And so, we touched on earlier, there's some things around intimidation and suppression that happen and really affect the Black community. So we want to surpass that by making voting culturally relevant, community-centered, and fun. It makes it more accessible, and people can feel more confident and included in the process. And by that way, we're empowering people to be a part of it all and get excited about voting.
That's what we all should be excited about voting. We have a call. We got Sheila. Sheila in Goodlettsville. Thank you for calling. What's your question or comment?
Okay, I have a dual conversation to have.
All right.
No one is talking about the obvious elephant in the room. Republicans do not want people to vote in Tennessee because Tennessee would be a blue state if everyone would vote. Republicans have made it difficult for Tennesseans to vote because they know that. My question is, help us with information on ex-felons because they are ex-felons because they have served their time. Talk to us about ex-felons being able to vote.
Thank you very much for that. Anyone? Do you understand why ex-felons are having difficulty casting votes?
I do. There's a lot of things in place that suppress people who have served their time from being able to vote. Like in Tennessee, you have to pay a restitution and make sure all of your fines and court fees are up to date before you can even register. You have to have your full rights restored, which includes in Tennessee gun ownership rights. You have to receive a pardon by the governor. And if you've been incarcerated and you have a child, you have to make sure that your child support payments are up to date. All of those are measures that prevent people from being a part of the democracy. And I believe there's a lot we can do to address that. And there's some things in the process right now that are hoping to streamline that process because everyone who is a resident or citizen in the United States should have the opportunity to vote. The Tennessee Lookout posted an article a few days ago that there's some things, legislation being reviewed at the moment that would help streamline that process and help over 500,000 Tennesseans, 200,000 of which are Black Tennesseans, be more eligible to vote and cast a ballot. I don't know if that legislation, it won't pass because we're not in session before November, but it's something that our organization is attuned to and something that we're always advocating for and talking about.
500,000 Tennesseans being given the right and the ability to vote could definitely change the results of some elections, one way or the other. Very interested in seeing an update on where that goes. Sheila, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate you being a part of the program. Now, Pratik, I want to ask a little bit about Turk, the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. Tell me a little bit about some of the civic engagement work that you all are doing.
Yeah, I mean, we are like Kaylin mentioned, it's election season. When people ask us how you doing today, it is a tricky question to answer. But we are in the thick of it. We are doing voter registration all across the state at the moment, and we are really leaning into meeting communities where they're at. It's Hispanic Heritage Month right now. We are going to places like Plaza Mariachi. We're going to Catholic churches. We're going to all kinds of folks and meeting them where they're at. And so it's really cool to do voter registration there. But the other thing that I think is really cool about some of our voter registration work is meeting some local immigrant-owned business owners. You know, a great example would be there's some Ethiopian and Somali coffee shops around town, and that's where their communities go to get some coffee. And so we've trained the business owners to actually register folks to vote. So they collect the forms. They give us a call and they say, hey, registered 35 people or 40 people. Can you come pick them up and turn them in for us? And so, sometimes we don't have to be the messengers. I think that we know that these immigrant business owners are the best messengers for their communities. And so we're leaning on them to, talk about why the issues are important to them, and their community resonates with that. And then lastly, I'll just say is that, as I mentioned before, and Joseph and Kaylin both touched on it, voting needs joy, and we are also throwing some voting parties all across the state. And so please keep a lookout for all three organizations voting parties, and come grab some food and enjoy some music while you're early voting or voting on election day.
Look, I'm going to date myself. I remember when Rock the Vote first hit the scene. That was a blast. And I registered to vote and I loved it. So I'm happy that you all are keeping that vibe going. And if you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're talking this hour about our voting ecosystem. You could call us 615-760-2000. Now, Kaylin, you mentioned Equity Alliance is done. Shut Up and Vote, where you get some drinks and you register. You also are doing something called the Faithful Voter Project. Tell me about that.
So the Faithful Voter Project is one of our signature initiatives around election season. And our organizing team is at partners with churches across the city and across the state, actually, with different pastors and congregations to help create civic disciples. And so we have our core organizing team, and a civic disciple is an organizer that we're helping to train that's inside of the church already, so that they can better have awareness of how the church operates, the best times and places to set up. And so we launched that last month. And so in Nashville, if you can go to any Mount Zion service for the month of September, we'll be there registering people to vote. We'll be at a couple different churches also this upcoming Sunday. So as you're getting in there, you're in community, because church, and especially in the South, is a large part of our community and the way we fellowship with one another. It's no better time to get civically engaged and do it with, as Pratik mentioned, some people that you love and that are near to you.
Let me ask you this before I go to break real quick. Kaylin, what are some of the ways that the county or the state could improve voter access?
That's a great question. I know one way that they could improve access is allowing our colleges and universities to be polling sites for our college students. We have a huge population of college students in Nashville and across the state, and why not make voting more convenient? As well as, why don't we allow same-day registration? In Tennessee, you have to be registered to vote 30 days ahead of the election, and that prevents a lot of people who may just not do it on time from being able to participate in the process. And those are two things that would allow the process to become more accessible for all Tennesseans.
I want to thank you so much for being here. Kaylin Russell is Advocacy Manager for the Equity Alliance, and Pratik Dash is Political Director at Turk. Thank you both for being here, and thanks for the work you're doing registering our fellow American citizens to vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Khalil.
All right, we're going to take one more break. When we come back, we'll keep the phones open to hear more of your voter stories. Give us a call, 615-760-2000, or you can always join the conversation by tweeting us at This Is Nashville. When was the first time you voted, and what was it like? Give us a call, 615-760-2000. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. It is your turn to talk. This hour, We want to hear from you about what voting has been like for you. We know you have stories, so call us up at 615-760-2000 to tell us what you think of the voting process as it currently stands, or ask one of our panelists a question. Here with me again is Dorinda Smith. She's with the Williamson County chapter of the League of Women Voters, and Joseph Gutierrez, the executive director of Asian and Pacific Islanders of Middle Tennessee. Thanks to you both for being here.
It's such an honor.
Yeah, definitely.
This is really great. Okay, so listeners, if you want to join the conversation, give us a call, 615-760-2000, and tell us, what are some of the improvements the federal government can make when it comes to voting? What are some of the ways the state can improve the system so that more people who are eligible to vote can vote? We can call us up again, 615-760-2000. Call us up like Cassandra from Spring Hill just did. Cassandra, thank you so much for being with us today. What is your question or comment?
Hi, I am curious about I've heard that Republicans are trying to make voters declare their party before voting, I guess in the primaries. And I don't identify as either Republican or Democrat. And so how does that prevent or intimidate voters from voting in the first place because maybe they don't want to choose a party? And I don't know, what are the steps that people in Tennessee are taking to prevent that from happening?
Are you mentioning primaries or the general election?
That's one of the things I feel like I am underinformed about, because I know that you have to pick in the primaries between Republican or Democrat, but I feel like they're trying to do it I thought that they were trying to do it in the general election as well, but maybe I am wrong.
Dorinda?
In Tennessee right now, you do not have to register at a party affiliation. There is no registration. There's no website that says I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. So while there is a law on the books that has been on the books for 50 years that says that only a bona fide member of a party can vote in that primary, it's not enforceable because there's no definition for bona fide. Yeah, it's a little confusing, and there's not going to be an impact to the presidential election. Certainly on a general election, you don't have to declare your party. But you're right. And there may be a law that's going into effect after this election in Tennessee that will require you to register a party. But you'll be able to go online and change it. So if you want to be an independent that votes in a Republican primary, you change it to Republican, vote in the primary, change it back to independent. You want to vote in the Democratic primary, you change it to Democrat, and then change it back to independent.
All right. Thank you so much for that call, Cassandra. Really appreciate it. Our phone lines are blazing. We're going to go to Lonnie in Sylvan Park. Lonnie, thanks for calling. What is your question or comment?
Hey, Khalil. Love what you guys do. My comment is a direct answer to your question. What has my experience been like?
Yes.
I grew up in Sumner County. I have voted in very rural polling places. I've lived downtown most of my adult life. And even, whether city mouse, country mouse, the thing I've always noticed is I'd say about 75-80% of the people I see voting are much, much older. I'm in my mid-40s, and I wish that the voting turnout in Tennessee was greater. I always find most young people in my community they're just too busy with their dreams and their lives, and they unfortunately don't get out as much as they should. So my comment is pop the bubble, have that conversation. There's 3 weeks to go. Get people motivated. I'm excited about Gloria Johnson running for Senate. And I'd also like to encourage the press, anything they can do, try to get a debate between Blackburn and Johnson. That's my comment. Thank you.
I can tell you this, Lonnie. Several people have hit us up attempting to get that debate. If we do, we'll let you know. All right, Joseph, talk to me about voter enthusiasm for young people with the communities you work with.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that really ties into our work about, trying to make voting seem cool and try to create events where young people can get out and vote. But I think for us, it's really important to find issues that young people care about and make it very real. And I remember the first time that I actually voted here in Middle Tennessee, I think I actually went out to vote to try and get wine in grocery stores on Sundays. And I was just so ready to go do that. But I think, it's really important to just kind of recognize and instill that importance. Like, for me, traditionally and culturally, like my mom was an immigrant from the Philippines, and she fled the Philippines during Ferdinand Marcos's martial law. So as an adult in the Philippines, she never actually had the opportunity to vote for her leader. So I think, it's always been really important for me to go vote and really think about, that's a privilege that I have. And I think it's really important that we, exercise our duty.
Finding the issues that young people feel important. I remember way back in the late 90s, had a lot of friends who were excited about potential candidates because they were floating the opportunity to legalize cannabis. That excited them very much. Did they go out and vote? Who knows? But they got their attention for sure. Okay, we're going to move to Renardo in Antioch. Renardo, what's your call?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. My question is about, I guess it deals with the electoral votes. Prime example, here in Davidson County, I've noticed in the past when it comes to the presidential elections, Davidson County will go blue, but with the way the state is set up, a lot of the votes end up, the majority being red. So my vote would end up going electoral vote for the opposing party. What are they doing to fix this issue? That kind of throw a lot of people off. They'd be like, well, my vote's not. But
You're breaking up a little bit, Renardo.
But did you hear me? Basically, I was saying if I vote blue, if the state goes red, my vote goes towards red. What are they going to do about it? They fix that.
You know, that is a really good point about the Electoral College. There are 48 states that whatever the majority of the state goes with what candidate, that all of the parties' Electoral College, all of the states' Electoral College votes go to that one candidate. There are two states, however, who don't have that. Nebraska and Maine have something different. It would require in Tennessee for the legislature to pass that they would split the Electoral College votes. I don't see that happening anytime soon. Do you?
We'll see. That's a good question, Renardo. Thank you for this. We got an emailed question in. It says, when are sample ballots being mailed to registered voters? Dorinda?
I don't know that. We will get those do you know?
I actually don't know, but I know that you can actually go to the county election site and then actually see it and download a PDF and see it right in front of you.
You also can go to sos.tn.gov and put in your address, and it'll bring that out for you.
All right, I've got a couple more calls and only a couple more minutes, but I do have to get these factual questions answers out of you. What IDs can students use a student ID to vote in Tennessee?
No, they cannot. It has to be a government issued ID. Even if you are at a state school, it doesn't count. You have to have a driver's license, a passport, a military ID, or something of that like.
Okay. And so photo IDs issued by the county or city, such as library cards or other states, not applicable.
Not going to work.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go to Tim in Franklin. Tim, thank you for holding, my friend. Thank you for holding. What is your comment or question?
Well, I have a comment. I'm 79 years old. I live in Franklin, and this will be my first time ever to vote.
Look at that.
Good for you.
Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah, I caved under pressure from the family. Only a couple of people knew that I hadn't. But I was always, I grew up with the concept of absolute freedom, and I had freedom to vote as well as I had freedom not to vote. So I guess that's through my hippie days that carried over.
Well, I'm happy that you're joining the rest of us voters for the first time, Tim. Congratulations. And hey, why don't you send us an email or a voicemail message about what the experience was like for you, okay?
I shall. I'm very concerned because I have no idea what I'm in for.
It'll actually be pretty easy. Tim, if you're in Franklin, you can vote at the Election Commission on Downs Boulevard early, October 16th through the 31st, also with the Rec Center at MacHatcher and Hillsborough Road. Both are wonderful spots to vote. I poll watch at both of them, and it's easy peasy.
Okay, very good. I'm looking forward to a brand new experience.
Wonderful, Tim. Thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate that call. Okay, we got time for one more call. We're going to go to Brian in Kingston Springs. Brian, thanks for calling. What's your question or comment?
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I know I got to make it quick. This is probably the most important election of our lives, and a lot of there are some groups, some people who are trying to block or cancel the vote of a lot of people, and it's really important for people to know that they need to get out and vote. And we're doing letter writing campaigns, postcard writing campaigns. And, we've got to let people know how important and what power people's votes have. So we're encouraging everyone to get out by November 5th and get your vote. I hung door hangers for Jimmy Carter, and I'm going to keep on doing this. I'm a poll worker. People need to get involved. A lot of people got jacked up on 2016, and they became very active. Everybody needs to be involved in the political process and make the elections safe, fair, and honest.
All right.
That's it. I love your show, man.
Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate that call, that impassioned call that's motivating us all. Real quick, I got a couple seconds left. Joseph, what do you want people to know about voting and why they should?
Yeah, I think they should go out and vote early. And I think just think about what the last caller said, making sure that they're sitting down talking to their families and getting their own families to go out and vote and really thinking about how they can get to the polls, go out together, early vote, have a meal afterwards.
Dorinda?
Just vote. We've talked a lot about registration, but Tennessee has an abysmal record on voting. Please just get out and vote. We make it easy. Early voting, election day, just vote.
Let's do what we can to make sure Tennessee is in the top 10 for states with voter turnout. I want to thank my guests, Joseph Gutierrez with the Asian and Pacific Islanders of Middle Tennessee and Dorinda Smith with the League of Women Voters Williamson County. Thanks to you both for being here, and thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and thanks to you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Mary Mancini. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Our technical director and board operator is Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music are Larange and Namir Blade. Elizabeth Burton was on the phones. Special thanks to you for calling in. Whatever you do, be sure to vote. And listen back at us at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And as always, the conversation never ends here. So you can tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Instagram. Tell us what you want from the show by filling out our teeny tiny survey online. You can also call us and leave us a message, 615-751-2500. We may use that message on air. Just wanted to let you know. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekolona. We'll see you on Monday, everybody. And be good to each other. And